Welcome to Fascia Masters Q&A with D&Q, episode 10, How is emotion stored in fascia?
Hi there, my name is Deanna Hansen. I'm a certified athletic therapist and the founder of Fluid Isometrics and Block Therapy.
And my name is Quinn Castellane. I'm the VP of Block Therapy and the lead block therapist.
Wow, emotion, like you see it on people's face when they walk by. You can see if they're storing anger, frustration, guilt, and you can actually see it in people.
Absolutely.
And it's really neat because the fascia is what ultimately delivers consciousness throughout the entire body. And we live in a stressful world. So people typically aren't light, happy, and joyous all the time. More than not, people are stressed and weighted and heavy. And emotion is actually one of those things that's adding that weight and heaviness to us. So remember when you were a boy, for example, and well, I'm not saying this was your situation, but I think it's a situation for many. If you were sad, you would be told not to cry.
Right.
And were you ever told that?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Don't cry.
Don't cry, yeah. So how does that make you feel? Like just the thought of it, like if you get hurt and your body is trying to release this pain, this sadness, whatever it is through tears, and you're told to stop crying, what do?
Hold your breath.
Yeah.
I feel worse about myself. I feel like I have to man up when you don't want to.
So you're stuffing those emotions down.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and through the holding the breath, we ultimately create a freeze response in the diaphragm, and that in itself creates a pattern of how we breathe and how we address things. So it's one thing if you encounter something that creates an emotion that you're not allowed to release, but what happens if you encounter that every single day?
Yeah.
If a parent every single day doesn't let you express yourself properly, or maybe it's a teacher, or maybe a friend. I mean, or even advertising, we are all told to be a certain way, and yet our body naturally is going to respond. And I love it because babies respond in the moment. They don't care.
Yeah.
They're going to cry, they're going to scream, they're going to have outbursts because that's them allowing that emotion to leave in the moment. And as long as things leave in the moment, they don't build up. But if they don't leave, what happens?
It builds up.
Exactly. Yeah. And then if that's building inside of you and you have this, let's again say it's sadness. Let's say you have this big store of sadness. Now you're sad.
Well, yeah. And then you almost need an emotional outburst to release it. And it's not, if you could just release it every time that emotion came in, inhale, exhale it out, everybody would be a lot more sane.
For sure, because emotions have frequency.
Right.
And it was the first time I actually read Greg Braden's book, Walking Between the Worlds, The Science of Compassion. I loved it because he shared about the frequency of love and fear. So the frequency of love, it's like this. It's the frequency of fear is like this. The frequency of love equals the frequency of our DNA. So when we pass loving thoughts or sensations or feelings through our body, through our mind, we are connecting to all of the codons in the DNA. So they're all activated and they're all vibrating, and we're a light, high vibrational being.
Right.
When we are passing fear thoughts, whether it's about ourselves, about someone else, judgments, we're connecting to that fear frequency. And the fear emotion can be, well, fear is not an emotion, it's an energy.
Right.
But the emotions connected to fear can be guilt, anger, shame. So if we're feeling that all the time, that's the energy that we're passing through our system, and that's not connecting to all of the codons on the DNA. So now we start shutting our system down, and we start becoming a lower vibrational being, storing that heavier, slower frequency that gets stuck in the fascia, and then magnetically we are charged with that emotion, and that's what we keep attracting.
Yes. Law of attraction.
Yes.
So interesting.
So ultimately, what do we want to do?
Well, we need to release it. This is the tool we use.
Yes.
Again, it's interesting because doing block therapy, you are targeting the fascia system. You're getting deep, you're exhaling, and what can happen is emotions can surface. You can, and it can be different emotions. Like there could be bouts of sadness in certain positions in the body. You could be focusing just on the breath and have interesting emotions. But again, there's areas of my body that I can be working that can bring up anger, frustration, sadness, intense anxiety that I didn't even know I really had. But when you understand why you're experiencing that and how to deal with it, when you get off of the block and you've released that emotion, you feel different. It's something you need to experience because you've literally released this negative trapped energy from your body and you're filling that with positivity, with love, with life, with oxygen, with the breath.
And so what happens too, like let's say there's a really scary injury that you undergo.
Yes.
It's not just the physical trauma.
Right.
What happens to the rest of the body?
Well, first of all, your body's going to go in more so of a shock, but the smell of the incident, you can even mention, is going to get stored in that injury. The visualization of that identical similar pain is still going to be there unless you heal it properly. But a lot of the time it's getting stuffed deep into that injury. And what can happen with doing block therapy is, for example, my ankle injury, this wasn't too long ago, where I had some of those similar painful memories resurface because I was working a lot around my ankle at the time. And I could feel the joint starting to realign, and it felt very similar to maybe a couple weeks after I fractured my ankle. So we need to keep working the area to release that emotion that has been buried so deep in the fascia so that we can release that, and then in part everything's going to realign.
I love that you mentioned the smell piece because it's so profound. Like, have you ever been turned off of a food that you love because maybe you ate it and then you got sick?
Yes.
Maybe you had food poisoning, or maybe you ended up with the flu, but that was what you ended up releasing from your body when you vomited, and it's like, okay, I'm never eating pizza again.
Exactly.
Yeah, like it's incredible. And that will stay with you because you connect that physical awful sensation to that food now.
Yeah.
Even though that food wasn't what actually probably caused you to get sick.
Right.
Of course, unless it was poisonous or bad. But yeah, it's just so neat because the fascia stores everything. It's this living, conscious tissue in our body here to absorb what the world is bringing to us. But we don't want to pull in the world and keep it there. We want to let it go. Let's say a deer is running through the forest, and a tiger's after it.
Right.
And it catches it, but it doesn't kill it. If you ever watch what happens after, the animal shakes because that initial fear of, okay, I'm going to be like this tiger's dinner, but it survived, it's in there, and then it goes through the shaking because it's releasing that energy, and then it gets off and it runs away. So it doesn't keep that emotion in its tissue. It goes through an actual release. But because we reactively hold the breath and store it, we don't go through that release. Where if we choose to do block or any other means of the ability to let this energy out of the body through that exhalation, then we can let it go in the moment so it doesn't have to stay with us forever.
Absolutely.
And that's the key, because if it stays with us, it turns into a physical weight in the body. There's a charge, a magnetic charge. And again, whatever we are magnetically, we're going to keep drawing in. So if we're angry, we're going to keep drawing in opportunities to create more of that.
Yes.
If we're joyous and light, we're also going to create more opportunities to bring in more of that, because that's how our bodies are. We are these beautiful light beings filled with emotion, and that's what we are projecting from our bodies, and that's what people see, and then we attract what we are into our lives. So the goal is through block therapy, and again, there's probably so many other means of releasing emotion from the body, but we do need to get down to that fascia system and create a decompression so that we can open that tissue up, exhale it out of the body, and then create a shift in our posture so we don't allow ourselves to fall back into that, oh my gosh, I'm scared. Oh, I don't want to feel this. Oh, I'm going to protect myself.
Yes.
That unconscious protective measure is designed for moments when we need it. It's not designed to be all the time living in that state of fear, because that's not where we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be alive and happy and joyous.
And even doing just the breathing, so the belly position, I noticed a huge change immediately. And I'm just gonna bring this up briefly, PTSD as well, because that's a very significant thing that can happen to you. I actually had that for a short period of time, and I was able to release that through doing block therapy because it was trapped in my cells, it was trapped in the fascia. And it's great because that happened as I was quite active with block therapy, and I was able to release that.
You saw
quickly.
a very scary accident
Right
in front of your eyes on the highway.
Yeah.
So even though you weren't physically in that moment injured yourself, what you took in, what you experienced, created that fear inside you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you can see why people have PTSD.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
It was, as bad as this sounds, it was good to experience that because now I know how to deal with that and how powerful this is to release it, because it was there for a while and it was super intense, and I never really understood PTSD until I actually had it for a short period of time. And then again, yeah, it was so significant. Even talking to you about the incident, talking to positive people about it, and things to help release that as well was amazing for myself.
So bottom line is, we don't want negative emotion stored and trapped in the body, yet we are.
And you can
afflicted
always
with
release it.
Yes. So with this process, absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, there's many ways you can deal with this, but this is a very palpable, physical way we can actually get to those areas. We can release that with the breath, and we can free our tissue. So we can change our vibration and attract more of what we really want in life, which is joy and love, ultimately.
Perfect. Well, guys, thank you again so much for watching this Fascia Masters episode. If you have any questions for us, please use the hashtag AskBlockTherapy. Submit your questions on our Block Therapy website, or of course you can email us info@fluidisometrics.com. We'll see you guys next week.
Breathe and believe.